Well, welcome back into the cottage garden, and today it's all about these little beauties, snowdrops. You can see here we're lucky enough to be able to grow these in this naturalistic planting. They've probably been here for 50 or 60 years, spreading out very gradually, and we use this planting, if you like, as a nursery from where we can dig up clumps. Method we're going to show you today is division, and they really benefit from being lifted, split and transferred to fresh areas around the garden. It's a great way of quickly multiplying up the number of snowdrops in areas that you've got these coming up in your garden. If I come in close on here, you'll see these seed pods forming already, and snowdrops will seed beautifully. They do tend to drop their seeds very locally, and what you get is the younger little bulbs growing away. Just let me see if I can find a couple for you to show you. Here we go. This little clump here is probably seedlings from last year. You'll see the wide leaf coming up with the little ones just to the side. They're going to take probably 2, maybe 3 years before the bulbs associated with these seedlings are of a sufficient size to give you a flower. So this method we're going to show you now is division of established clumps, and we're going to show you how to take those in the green. It's an ideal time of the year to be doing this while you've still got the beauty of the snowdrops in your mind, a good idea where you'd like further clumps to be in your garden next year. So let's dig up a clump and just show you what's underneath and how easy it is to multiply these up nice and quickly. A little bit about depth when you're coming to put a spade into these. They are not terrifically deep rooted, but you still need to get a spade well under the clump and lift the whole lot up like this, and you'll see the actual bulb roots here are probably only about 3 to 4 inches below the soil level. If I just bring this clump away, let's just see what we've got by cleaning up around the soil. This is quite a clay loam, a good topsoil in this moist dell. And I'm really having to work quite a bit away before I'm getting any bulbs. You'll see how many plants and how compactly they are growing close together. If I start tearing these apart, you'll see that the bulbs are really like little silver-skinned onions, just growing below the surface here. And ideally, when we come to plant these, what I'm going to suggest the best way of doing this is dividing these into clumps of between 5 and 10 bulbs. And the reason we do that is because 5 or 10 of these good sized little bulblets are going to give you a display that you're actually going to notice next year and put up probably 10 to 15 flowering heads, and they will multiply up and thicken quite quickly. So what we're going to do is divide this single clump up into little collections of bulbs, I say between 5 and 10. The more you've got, the more you can afford to plant in your replanted clumps, and the better the display you'll get the following season. If you're only got a few bulbs to plant out and you're having to plant these either singly or in just 2s or 3s, obviously you're going to have to be a lot more patient. It's going to take that clump maybe 3 to 5 years to build up into a clump like this each time. So there we go. From a single clump I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, possibly 7, 8, 9 little clumps of between 5 and 10 bulbs, and that's quite normal when you dig up one of these established clumps to find that concentration of bulbs underneath. Now let's go and show you how we plant these directly out into the area where we're going to want them to flower next year, and show you the depth at which you plant these and how easy it is to get them in the soil. Okay, well I've moved across now just 15 to 20 feet away from where we've had that big established clump where we've dug the snowdrop bulbs up. And this is an area that we are planting, and we started this planting last year by doing the technique we're showing you today. And you'll see in this area we've got last year's clumps that have come up, and these have all established themselves. They have flowered already. These are probably smaller than the clumps I'm going to plant today. We've only got this one particularly looking, you've only got 3 bulbs in that one. But we're starting to spread these out, and we're planting the little clumps at intervals of around 8 to 12 inches. And this should gradually, over the next 2 to 3 years, thicken up. The seeds that these plants are setting this year will establish themselves around the base of the little plants, and we should have a confluent planting and flowering of snowdrops within the next 3 to 4 years, I hope. So let's get these straight into the ground. I'm just going to, with my spade, open the ground up both ways without actually removing any of the soil. You can then get your hand into that depth, and we're basically just planting these into the base of that slit piece of soil, planting the bulbs in and then firming it back with your foot, and there you are. Done job, planted snowdrops. Let's do another one. Go into the side of that campion. Don't want to dig that up. Again, forwards and backwards with the spade, just to oyster the soil open. Take your snowdrop bulbs. If you want to flatten these little clumps out slightly, just by that, so they're slightly longer than a round planting, that's a great way of just extending them out and giving them a little bit more space, and then just firming this very nice moist soil back in around them. So you're not actually removing any of this soil, you're just oystering open a hole and literally with your fingers just opening it up and slipping the little clumps of snowdrop bulbs in under the surface and firming them straight down. This soil is very moist indeed. I'm not going to have to do any watering or anything. If your soil was dry, then you want to keep these in growth, so water after you've planted and make sure that they stay moist for the rest of this season until they go underground if possible. So I'm just going to crack on and extend this planting, just spacing them at around the 8 to 12 inch mark, and I'm going to try and get a couple of hundred lots of these done over the next week or so. It's the best time of year to do it while you've still got the enthusiasm and you can still see a little bit of flower, because next year we're going to have an awful lot more of these hopefully.